Okay, so just a brief preface. My story does include some small references to mild drug use. So if at any time you have to leave and take care of yourself, I will totally understand and not take it personally. Do what you need to do. Okay. There are 3 things I always bring with me on a hitchhiking trip. Number 1, a good pair of steel-toed boots. And I have a special pair. They are vegan, of course, because I'm vegan. They cost me a pretty penny. I shipped them over from England, but they're important because they give out the message that I can kick your ass, and I will, if the time comes. 2, my lucky pair of, my lucky pink earmuffs, hot pink, and they were the first sewing project I ever made. I was about 16 years old. They come in handy because you never know when it's going to be drizzly and cold, and plus, they draw attention on the side of the road to me, and that's the whole point, right? And number 3, to top off the whole outfit, I wear my favorite pair of silver and gold spurs on my steel-toed boots. And those are just great. They make a really cool sound when I walk, like and they just add to the tough factor. So, this particular hitchhiking trip, I was about 20 years old. I was headed from Portland, Oregon, where I live, down to Oakland, California, with some friends, heading to the Anarchist Book Fair that happens every year. And we set out, it was great, we got some good rides. Fast forward, we were in this big bus with a group of hippies. And they were the quintessential hippies. You know, they had a 3-legged pit bull, of course, a big yellow school bus, tapestries everywhere. We were listening to some Grateful Dead and some Fish. You know, I lived in Humboldt for 10 years, and if I never ever hear another Grateful Dead or Fish song, it'll be too bad. But you know, you just go with the flow when you're on a hitchhiking trip. That's part of the charm. So these hippies decide that we're going to pull over for some lunch. We pull over at this, rest stop park on the side of the road, and they decide this is the greatest park ever. They were just taken with it, and they whip out this big bowl with this salad that they made, and it has mixed greens and these flower petals, nasturtiums and rose petals, and they really spend a lot of time on this salad, and they're like, share it with us, and they have this big mason jar of their special secret salad dressing. It's really just peanut butter mixed with balsamic vinegar, but they're like, this is our special recipe. And so we're sitting there, in this rest stop, beautiful park, taking in the sights and the sun, and they are just loving it, They're like, this is the most beautiful day, and our dog is so lovely, and I couldn't help but soak it in, I started to feel it. I was like, this is great. This is the best trip ever. I'm on my way to the book fair. Yes, this is great. This salad is amazing. Look at these petals. And then, right in the middle of this loveliness, I realized I had left my bag 200 miles away in Garberville. And my spirits sunk. And any other time, I would just say, fuck it. I don't need the bag. I have my earmuffs, I have my boots, I have my spurs. Let's just keep going. But I couldn't this particular day, and I'll tell you why. Because just a week before this, I had found the most amazing thing. I had found this store in Portland that catered to a not-so-secret fetish of mine. I am obsessed with eyeglasses. I'm obsessed with, specifically, cat eyeglasses, vintage cat eyeglasses. And I had found this store, and I had found the most perfect pair of vintage cat eyeglasses. They were from France. They were one of a kind. They were from the 80s, vintage, and they were clear, right? And they were asymmetrical. One side jutted out, probably about to here, with these crisscross bars, black. And it was insane. They were ridiculous. They made me look like the most eccentric art teacher that I always wanted but never had in high school, or the spawn of Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus, a personal style icon of mine. And they were my soul glasses. I needed them, and I had packed them in this trip specifically to wear at the Anarchist Book Fair. And perfect time. So I needed to go back. I knew it. I needed to go back. And I tried to convince my friend we had to go back. She wouldn't do it. So we parted ways. I was gonna go back by myself. She went down with the hippies. I went to the side of the road, stuck out my thumb. I waited there for hours. I started to regret my decision. I thought maybe my bag was gone already. I would never get a ride. I waited in the hot sun, sweating, my heart pounding. Finally, as if out of nowhere, a green van emerged and pulled over. I walked up to the van. It wasn't my ideal ride. It didn't have any windows except for the front. And I peeked in, I saw older white guy. Seemed like he had an oxygen tank next to him, and he had some tubing. I was like, well, okay, I guess this will work. How threatening could this guy be? So I got in, just my luck. He said he could take me all the way to Garberville. So like, perfect, okay. So on our way, he said his name was Lucky, he was a war veteran, also a marijuana courier. But that happens, it's Northern California, okay. So a couple hours later, we arrived in Garberville. He was nice enough to backtrack me to all the different places I had hiked in Garberville, all the places my bag could be, to no avail. It was gone. Somebody took my bag with my dream pair of cat eyes in it. I would never get them back. I was devastated. Every last shred of hope was gone. I didn't know what to do. I guess I would just go back towards Oakland. I wanted to part ways with Lucky at that point, but he offered to take me down to Willits, a good hour south, on my way back to Oakland, so it was an offer I couldn't refuse. Got back into the van. The thing I forgot to mention about Lucky, he was sleazy. He had spent that whole couple hours making innuendos, trying to get to know me. It definitely raised my hackles. But I can handle that. That's just a unique part of hitchhiking as well. The steel toes, they're part of that. So I wasn't eager to be in the van with him again, but I could handle it, whatever. So we get back in the car, in the van. At some point he wants to stop at a rest stop, go pee. He also wants to smoke some pot. Pot is not my friend. I know it does crazy things to me. It turns me into basically a paranoid freak. And this is where I make a real big mistake. He offers me a hit of the pot, and just because I'm so devastated, I figure, what harm could it do, right? Wrong. I take a big old toke off the pipe. I get real high, real fast. My eyes just, and I still have a good 45 minutes in the van with Lucky. The charming gent he is. And what I forgot to mention about Lucky and his van is that his van is covered in tchotchkes. It's covered in tchotchkes. There's bells everywhere hanging from strings. Excuse me. It's also a thick layer of dust. And the thing about the bells is that they make this kind of ringing noise with the motion of the movement of the, thank you, of the van. And I hadn't really noticed that before, but now I'm very stoned, and I hear it. But I can't figure out in my, pot-addled brain where this noise is coming from. I don't really get it. But what I do see is that Lucky, the sleazeball, has his hands precariously near his crotch. And I'm like, oh, what is he doing? He's doing something lecherous. So in my state, I think I figured it out. The noise is somehow associated with his hand being near his crotch. I know what he's doing. Oh my God, he's jerking himself off with a pocket pussy. He's jerking himself off with an artificial vagina in his crotch, in his lap, right next to me. Not 3 feet away. He's in the van. He is stroking himself with a pocket pussy. I have to get out of this van right now. This is unsafe. I have to leave. I have to get out. But I'm on the freeway. So no, I can't do it. So I have to just sit there uncomfortable. We finally pull into Willits, where I proceed to open the door, jump out while we're moving, and roll and start booking it down the street. Lucky, you're never gonna get me! right? Lucky's still driving to try to get me. I come up to a Dairy Queen, and there's another school bus, a bigger one this time, parked there, and it's full of maybe hippie punks, hybrids. And I'm like, oh, they're going to the Anarchist Book Fair. I'm still stoned out of my mind. I knock on their door, and I'm like, hey, are you guys going to the Anarchist Book Fair? And they're like, no, we're parked here for the night, but we're not going there anyways. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep booking it. And as I'm leaving, this boy emerges from the bus. And oh my gosh, he is so cute. He's just so cute. He has these blue eyes that are just, you know the type. They're really sparkly and they're big and they're luring me in, they're mesmerizing me. And yeah, okay, I'm high. So maybe they're not quite as mesmerizing as I thought, but they're very mesmerizing. And he says, hey, wait, what would you say to one night of unadulterated, no strings attached, wild, amazing, beautiful sex? And you know, I just had this weird encounter with Lucky, but this boy, I like this boy, but it's just too much. So all I can really say is, well, rain check? And I keep walking. So I'm walking, I'm like, okay, I gotta go to the ARCO station, public place. So I'm walking to the ARCO station, you know, but Lucky, meanwhile, is still chasing me. So I'm like, oh gosh, okay. So I go to the ARCO station, which I know is open. So it's nighttime at this point. I finally get there, I'm waiting on the curb, just being in the light, you know, trying to be seen. And then here comes this other character. It's a crazy character. He's like skinny, white boy, you know, something's going on there. He comes strolling up real fast, you know, moving quickly, you know, with a little purpose. You know, he sees me, I'm in his glare. He's like, hey, what you doing? Where you going? What's your name? I'm Brian. Well, what's going on there? Are you traveling? What are you doing? What is he? And I'm like, whoa, he's a little hyper. Hey, Brian. I'm, you know, I'm hitchhiking. I don't know. So he's obviously on something, but, and normally, you know, I'm not a big fan. I have to say, I'm not a big fan of straight white guys trying to seduce me, trying to hit on me, trying to be my savior. Not a big fan. But in this particular instance, I see an opportunity. I'm still trying to flee what seems like a very unsafe situation with Lucky, and Brian seems like maybe he could be of help to me. So I say, hey Brian, I have a situation here. There's a guy following me and he won't leave me alone. His name's Lucky, he's in this green van. And Brian's all too eager to help me. So next time Lucky drives by, Brian runs out into the street, starts kicking and screaming and saying, Lucky, get the fuck out of there! Leave Squid alone! And it really worked. Lucky never came back. And, you know, Brian did exactly what I needed him to do. I let him down easy. I wasn't going to go back to his motel room. I ended up spending the night in a graveyard by myself in Willits. And you know, it all worked out in the end. I made it down to the Anarchist Book Fair. I never found my glasses, but I had a wonderful time. I bought some zines, bought some books. It all worked out. And really, I guess, I learned 3 major things in the end. 1, always trust your instincts, even if they're a little bit warped, for whatever reason. 2, never, ever get into a molester band. 3, take the time to appreciate a salad with some petals in it.